This presentation will outline the features and interface options of OMNTEC's Proteus series controllers. The Proteus X is the most versatile of our controllers, as it can be configured for a wide variety of options. The Proteus X is ideal for large sites and supports up to 40 level probes or up to 64 bright eye series sensors, depending on the number and type of interface boards installed. On the front panel, we have our 7-inch color touchscreen display. Most units are equipped with a printer, which is an optional feature. On the inside, we see the back of the display has an intrinsic cover. Next to that we have the printer in its protective metal box. On the left side of the controller is mounted the main control unit, or MCU board. A red RS485 communications board gets mounted on the MCU and comes standard on the Proteus X. On the back of the controller is mounted a backplane which will house the various interface boards, which are explained later in this presentation. The card cage will contain a metal barrier to separate the intrinsic and non-intrinsic boards. A total of 6 interface boards can be installed in the card cage, with a maximum of 4 boards of any one type. On the left side of the card cage is the unit's power supply. The TCP/IP, RJ45, and serial RS232, DB9 communication ports are located on the bottom of the controller. When the door is closed, the metal plate of the display and the metal barrier in the card cage produces an intrinsically safe compartment for the probe and sensor inputs. The Proteus K is ideal for smaller sites and supports up to 8 level probes or up to 16 bright eye series sensors, depending on the type of interface board installed. Just like the Proteus X, the front panel has a 7-inch color touchscreen display and printer option. On the inside, as with the Proteus X, the display has an intrinsic cover and the printer is in its protective metal box. On the left side of the controller is mounted the unit's power supply. On the back left side is mounted the main control unit, or MCU board. A red RS485 communications board, optional on the Proteus K, can be mounted on the MCU. On the back right side is mounted one of 2 different probe and sensor interface boards, which are explained later. The interface board will have a metal barrier to separate the intrinsic and non-intrinsic side of the interface board. The TCP/IP, RJ45, and serial RS232, DB9 communication ports are located on the left side of the controller. Again, when the door is closed, the metal plate of the display and the metal barrier over the interface board produces an intrinsically safe compartment for the probe and sensor inputs. The Proteus B is also ideal for smaller sites and supports up to 8 level probes or up to 16 bright eye series sensors, depending on the type of interface board installed. Unlike the Proteus X or Proteus K, the front panel has only our 7-inch color touchscreen display. The Proteus B is not equipped with a printer. Looking on the inside, we see the back of the display has an intrinsic cover. On the left side of the controller is mounted the unit's power supply. On the back of the controller is mounted one of 2 different probe and sensor interface boards, which will be explained later. Like the Proteus K, the interface board has a metal barrier to separate the intrinsic and non-intrinsic sides of the interface board. As this does not have an MCU board, there are some unit functions that will not be available. A serial RS232, DB9 communication port is located on the left side of the controller. As with the other controllers, when the door is closed, the metal plate of the display and the metal barrier over the interface board produces an intrinsic safe compartment for the probe and sensor inputs. Now we will review the various interface boards used in the Proteus line of controllers. The MCU, main control unit, is installed in the Proteus X and Proteus K controllers. It provides the various input-output functions required by the system, as well as the web interface function and optional Modbus protocol. It is the data collection point for log storage and print functions. An RS485 communication board gets mounted on the MCU, which is standard on the Proteus X and optional on the Proteus K. There are 3 on-board relays rated for 0.45 amps at 125 volts DC, which are used for remote annunciators via the J9, 10-pin connector. These relays can be programmed to monitor various conditions and will trigger other processes upon an alarm condition. The XB416 is a combination probe and sensor interface board. It is responsible for communicating with the probes and sensors, gathering the required data for the other functions of the controller. It stores the data to be viewed in the on-screen reports and transfers data to the MCU for print functions. The XB800 performs the same functions as the XB416, with the difference being it only collects probe information. Individual XB416 and XB800 interface boards can be combined in the Proteus X controller. The XB416DC is the wireless version of the XB416 and performs the same functions. However, information is sent from the tank, or the transmitter, to the controller, the receiver, via radio transmissions. This unit gets installed in the Proteus X and is referred to as the Proteus XW. The XB800DC is the wireless version of the XB800 and communicates via radio transmission. Both the XB416DC and XB800DC are equipped with RS-232 communication test ports to assist with troubleshooting radio transmission issues. In special cases, wired and wireless interface boards can be installed in a single Proteus X unit. The XBRB8 relay output board is used in the Proteus X when remote annunciator requirements are greater than 2 tanks or when pumps need to be controlled and cannot be handled by the low-voltage relays installed on the MCU. For a Proteus K, this module can be mounted in an external enclosure and is called the XCR8. The XB4IO is a combination input-output board for the Proteus X only. The relay outputs can be programmed in the same manner as the XBRB8. Discrete contacts can be connected to the inputs and can be programmed to control 7 different individual functions. This completes the presentation on features and interface options of the Proteus series controllers.